Weird games. What is weird? What is it to be a weird game? Well, to me, a game that is weird is something that uses unique mechanics, has a strange art style, has a unique, unorthodox theme, and maybe all three at once. But honestly, if I try to describe it in a general term, it stops being weird, right? That's why weird games are so great. But a lot of weird games aren't appealing to even the most experimental of players. Games that are painful to look at, or hard to play, or just straight up broken and unexplainable. So I'm here to recommend some weird games that are out or are coming soon, that actually look like approachable products you would want to buy. I'm your host, Meatloaf, and this is the weird games that you should actually play. Cruelty Squad, developed by Ville Kallio, released in 2021. Riff off the fact that it was the first video on the channel, yada yada. Use footage of the iceberg video so I don't have to download anything. Everyone knows what Cruelty Squad is now because of a furry YouTuber who gives a shit. Okay? The Eternal Cylinder, developed by Ace Team. The Eternal Cylinder is basically what Spore would have been if Firaxis didn't feature creep the character creator into oblivion, and also if they added a giant rolling pin across the entire world that slowly killed all of the horrible abominations people made in it. You play as a Trebhum, a cute little alien elephant that has to save the world from the Cylinder and its David Cronenberg-like minions. Unfortunately, the world is also full of stupid, stinky animals who don't want to be saved because they're too busy trying to eat you for food. All else I can say about this game is that Peter Molyneux probably lays in bed at night wishing he could have made this into a NFT gift box or some garbage. Metal Wolf Chaos XD. The fates ordained for this game's remaster to have the emoticon XD in the title. There's really no other explanation. Metal Wolf Chaos is a FromSoft game they made before the Soul series, and is effectively the Raiden to Armored Core's Snake. It's ridiculous, tries to be cool really hard, has a beloved cult fanbase, and has something to do with the US presidency. Even looking past the ridiculous premise, Metal Wolf Chaos is actually extremely fun as a mech shooter and stands head and shoulders among the ranks of the other hyper-stimulated Japanese mech games. Go play it, and then post your thoughts about it on the FromSoft subreddit. They'll really like that, and you totally won't get banned. Squirrel Stapler, developed by David Szymanski, the developer of Iron Lung and Dusk. You hunt squirrels, staple them to your wife, read poetry, and meet God. It's a cute and family-catered experience everyone can enjoy. Like Monopoly, or breathing in fungal spores from mold in the bathroom. The Hylic series. Have you ever played the 90s adventure game Neverhood? Do you want something animated with stop-motion clay models, but as a classic Paper Mario-style turn-based RPG instead of an adventure game with moon logic puzzles? Well then meet Hylics, or the Hylic games, as there are two released currently. Developed by Mason Lindroth, the Hylic games add a beautiful, surreal art style and pastel claymation world to the realm of indie RPGs, and the genre is absolutely better off for it. My personal draw to this little series was the RPG battle system, with the classic Final Fantasy style party combat, the wacky animated enemies, and the fact that your attacks are literally handmade with rotoscoped human hands. Though that last part might just be because I'm a huge fan of the web series Boysvert, which does a similar thing, but hey, that's no big deal. Play this game if you're into RPGs, and also go rewatch Boysvert under the covers at 1 a.m. Dread Delusion. What if Morrowind was made by an indie team for less of the budget, but the main artist actually put colors besides brown, gray, and yellow on all the textures? You'd get Dread Delusion, published by Dread XP, the same people who published the Dread X collections that Squirrel Stapler was first featured in. The art style of the game is interesting in the fact that with a bit of nice ambient music, it's comfy and inviting, if a little surreal and weird. But then as you adventure across the floating islands and come across more and more nightmarish looking monsters and weird alien creatures and Notice that all of the texture work styled after the PlayStation 1 is constantly undulating in front of your eyes. It becomes incredibly unsettling, especially when those creatures start moving and going towards you and attacking you. Great. That said, Dread Delusion isn't a horror game. It's much more alien, esoteric, and charming, much like Morrowind itself, and much like a lot of the stuff that the Dread XP guys publish. Check it out if you're a fan of any of the things I mentioned, or you just want to experience acid trips without having to buy drugs for the inflated prices they are now. Clash: Artifact of Chaos, made by Ace Team, the same devs as the Eternal Cylinder, which I mentioned before. If you ever played Ace Team's first game, Xenoclash, this should look familiar. If not, which you probably didn't, I'll sell it like this. Clash is a 3D beat-em-up set in an exotic fantasy setting where your main character fights bizarre-looking creatures and enemies to rescue this little puffball thing. You play as its grandpa in the prologue and he dies. That's pretty typical for an Ace Team game. Seems pretty reasonable so far, but that's because I haven't told you about the board game that you play with boss fights where you decide who gets to hit who first and if you get any special advantages like tying your opponent to a rope. Yeah, that's a real thing. Also, even though Clash is considered a Souls-like, it doesn't have a bonfire system. When your character dies, you play as your spirit and travel through a darkened spirit world version of the map until you find your body again and manually resurrect yourself. This means if you die in a boss fight or some sort of battle, you're gonna have to fight those enemies in their spirit world versions as the spirit body and then get your body back. Regardless, look at this trailer though. No matter how weird this game is, this shit looks sick as hell. You cannot lie to me that it does not. Golden Light. The best I can sum this game up is if Eraserhead got adapted into a roguelike and then the lead developer had a mental breakdown watching a Boar's Head commercial. Lead dev in question, Mr. Pink, who I'm sure has never done any of those things, made an excellent, unique game filled with talking melee weapons you can eat, grotesque enemies, and enough mimic monsters to make a Gmod prop hunt player sweat bullets. This image you find in the Steam screenshots should tell you enough where the developer was going with this game. If you like gore, ghouls, and gabagool, check out Golden Light. Mundaun. Another horror game for our final released entry, though decidedly the opposite of Golden Light. A completely hand-drawn Faustian folklore adventure set in rural Switzerland, where the protagonist squares off with a demon and fights evil beekeepers for the fate of a town. Yes, beekeepers. I said that right. Also, there's an entire mechanic where you make coffee in real time to increase what is effectively your sanity meter. And yes, when I said hand-drawn, I meant it. The developer literally drew every single item and texture in the game and digitized them using photography. I can't even make a joke here, that's fucking impressive. Far beyond anything I could do. Alright, now time for the upcoming lightning round. These are games that are coming out soon but aren't out yet, so I'm just here to do advertisement basically for cool shit I found. VA Proxy. Basically, some guy is trying to make his own smaller indie version of Nier Automata with equally awesome looking post-apocalyptic robots. You probably saw this on Twitter, a recent clip where he parries a nuclear explosion popped up. So, yeah, I don't think I even need to sell this game as hard anymore. Unfortunately though, for Nier fans, I have to sadly announce that you probably won't enjoy this game as much because you won't be able to easily jerk off to it. So, keep that in mind. Lies of P. Bloodborne on PC, but Miyazaki got influenced by Walt Disney instead of H.P. Lovecraft. What else do you want? Besides Bloodborne on PC, I guess. Gossamer Matrix. Hey Meatloaf, isn't this Cruelty Squad again? No. Gossamer Matrix is a completely different game about using your arms to do stuff, like all real-life humans, as I'm told. When you heal, when you reload, when you eat, it's all through a physics-enabled minigame where you have to manually drag the item into the correct place. Now gamers everywhere can imagine what it's like to have a functioning body, uncompromised by body fat and rampant arthritis. Angerfoot. Hotline Miami if it was an FPS with colorful comic book animal characters and a boppin' soundtrack. As developed by a foot fetishist. You know, just what the Hotline formula needed. Mouse. Another FPS, this time starring Mickey Mouse after his incessant Kingdom Hearts cameos have driven him into a murderous rage. Very early in dev with no release date, but the dev Fuma Games is definitely cooking with this excellent idea. I mean, here I was lambasted by the liberal media that games with cell animation art styles were missing the most crucial aspect of 1930s cartoons: brutal, family-unfriendly violence involving firearms. And that's why animation is cinema. Thank you, Fuma Games, for proving my twit longer right. Dad by the Sword. This game is, from what I've heard, basically what my dad had to do to get to school as a kid. Unfortunately though, I'm not a father, so I'm not allowed to play this game. Only play this game if you're a father watching this. Shout out all #dads. Hellboy, Web of Word. Wait, there's a comic-accurate Hellboy game coming out? When?
Yes! Hell yeah! Hey, come on, baby! Come on! Yes! Come on!
Motor Doom. This is what the protagonists of Tony Hawk games will do when their crimes finally catch up with them and they are punished with eternal torment. That includes you, Tony. You most of all. Katorka Prelude. Pathologic, but you get to shoot people. Wait, fuck. Ah, shit. Killer Bean. Max Payne. But good. Hard Life for Half-Life. Life, but hard. And of course, my most anticipated game, the Baldur's Gate 3 of 2024. Lush Foil Photography Simulator.